So, hello, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. Just a little bit of background there. I'm Ben Schogler. I'm one of the founders of Skoogmusic, and this is a webinar all about Skoog. I've got a Skoog set up here on a mount, on a RAM mount, and one loose here so we can explore that. And this is a webinar with a sort of technical hands-on about how to get started. We'll go through various different functions, and I'll try and illustrate that with things you can actually do in making best use of those functions in the classroom. So one thing to note is, so this webinar at the moment is going live out. It's 5 p.m. UK time, which is the time that we scheduled it for here. There's been some changes in terms of time zones. So if you were scheduling this, maybe looking at this from Pacific time, you might be watching a recording. But do, if anyone has any questions, please do pop them into the comments box. And also, if you have questions and you're watching it as a recorded video, please feel free to email us the questions at info or support Skoogmusic, and we will get to those and answer them just as quickly as we can. So I'm going to share my screen so that, yeah, I've got an iPad here. So I'm sharing my screen so that you guys can see. Dun, dun, dun. Here we are. So that you guys can see my screen and see what I am doing. Now, one thing I just wanted to check is that everyone can hear me, and hopefully you can. I just to check my Zoom controls. But yes, it looks like it's coming through. I can see that. Fantastic. So this is on the screen here. You should on the video be able to see me, see the Skoog, which I can say is fixed to a mount. And I'm going to get started. So this is the screen from my iPad, and I'm going to open the Skoog app. Now, Skoog has several apps that you can use. This is the main Skoog app, which is just Skoogmusic. And that seems to be clipping the top menu for some reason. Okay, well, we'll work with that. That's a shame. Oh, there we go. We've got that sorted. Now we can see the top menu bar. So I've downloaded the app. And when you first download the app, and this is an important point, if you can see there's a question mark in the top right. Now, when you first download the app, Skoog, it will walk through a setup process. Now, I'm just going to show you that here. If you ever want to get back to any of the help or videos or guides that are built in, just tap the question mark in the top right-hand corner. And as you can see, it brings up the help. Now, you can see there are user guides in here for some popular activities and actions in the software. And there's this set up your Skoog. Now, this is a hands-on get started, and it shows you how to turn it on. So let's turn it on here. Let's press the button, and then it says press it again. So you press it once to turn it on, and press it again to turn the Bluetooth on. Then you can see my Skoog has popped up in the menu there, and let's connect it. And now it's connected. There we go. And then there are various steps. You can choose a mounted versus a standard setup. I'm just going to say standard in this case, so that because it's mounted flat, and you can just get on with that. It gives you some advice. Now, Skoog is best used on a flat surface, or it can be held in the lap. It does need to calibrate when it first starts up. Now, it normally does this in the software. We'll have a quick look after this as soon as it connects, and you just have to make sure it's not being touched whilst it goes through calibration. So I'm going to touch calibrate here. We're already calibrated. There we go. Now, there's our Skoog. Now, Skoog is a pentatonic tunable musical instrument at its heart, but it can do so much more, and it doesn't have to be pentatonic scales. You can set the notes individually. You can use color to do performances, playing melody in different parts. You can record your own sounds onto the Skoog, so you can use it with voice samples or sound effects for multisensory learning and doing cross-curricular activities. You can even use it for coding, but we're not going to cover that today. We're going to focus on the music and see what we can do. Now, on my Skoog now, I've got it connected and set up, and I've got a note on each side. Hopefully you can hear all that. So you can see here on the screen here, it's got some tips on playing your Skoog, and here it shows you how to play a scale. So if I follow the colors here, brilliant, well done. And then let's try playing it now. And what it's showing us here is how the notes are laid out. With the Skoog settings, the notes are always arranged in the same side. So the way that Skoog works is you have a different note or sound per side, and you have 5 at a time. And when we do the settings, when you use the settings in the software, it's always set up where it's lowest on red and it goes clockwise up to the top, and then highest on the orange down. Brilliant. Now in the setup here, it does then go on to show me how to play a song, but I'm going to close out of that because that's the onboarding setup, and I'm going to turn it off very quickly. And I just want to show you, so once you've been through that, when you first get your Skoog or you first have a Skoog and you start playing with it, go through that onboarding, go through the steps and look at the advice that's there. This normally, once you're sort of up to speed with Skoog, you'd just press the button twice, click connect, and it will connect. There we go, connected, done. And now we are. And normally it would calibrate. So there's also a calibrate button on the screen. So if you ever find that your Skoog starts behaving funny and maybe it starts making a sound and you're not touching it, then just tap the calibrate button, take your hands off it, and you're good to go. Okay, now, because I'm connected to the camera here, sometimes you might find that I need to kind of reset the audio because there's a funny thing going on, but don't worry about that. So Skoog is a musical device, a musical instrument designed especially for children and with a particular focus on accessibility. So it's designed to help overcome the barriers that many people face in playing musical instruments or taking part in music. And it does that by addressing the two primary barriers, which one is the physical skill needed to make the sounds. Now with Skoog, it's this lovely soft, squishy, let's show you with this one, all soft and squishy, really friendly, and you can play it anywhere. So here, look, I'm playing on the edge. I don't have to hit the actual buttons, but the buttons are more like a target and they allow sort of greater control. So there's a different one per surface. I can wiggle it, I can play it, my face. So it doesn't need a high level of coordination to make the sounds. It's super easy. Now, in terms of being interactive in that sense, it's great for just getting out and playing, letting kids play with their feet, get their hands on it, roll it around and start making some sounds. When you're using the Skoog, it normally has scales on it, like as it sounds just now. Now those scales are set in such a way, they're pentatonic scales, so they sound good. And so even just playing with the Skoog, you're starting to create a musical atmosphere because the sounds are set to work together. And that's the other half of this barriers thing. So one barrier to playing instruments is the skill you need, the physical dexterity to be able to make the sounds. Skoog, super easy, you just have to touch it. And then the next barrier is what sounds to make. So when you have a keyboard, you have to make sure you're picking the right notes that are in the right, for the right song and they all fit together. And with Skoog, it sets the scale so that you have, oh, sorry, pardon me, got a frog in my throat. It sets the scale so you have the right notes, so they do fit together. So you don't have to worry about knowing your scales or having music theory. This does it for you, and it gives you notes that are going to work. So it really frees up a kind of musical play and improvisation right from the start. And it needs no musical knowledge on behalf of the user or the child or the player, or on behalf of the teacher, carer or support worker or therapist. You can just dive in and do stuff. So let's have a look. So touching to make sound, very easy. Now you can adjust the sensitivity. Let's have a quick look at that. Here we go. Now the Skoog settings, where this little cog icon is, pops down, and there's sensitivity, and then there's a section on turning sides on and off, which can be very useful, particularly if you want to limit the behavior. So if you're working with a group and you want a student to be playing just 2 notes in a group as part of a band, then you can just have 2 of the sides turned on. Another great way of using that actually is if you turn all the sides off and just have sound on one side, and then you have an explorative play session with younger kids. You see if they can find the sound. Which side is the sound on? It's really good fun. Great for tactile play. Great for promoting exploration with the hands. Another great benefit of Skoog is it's really useful for tactile avoidant behavior, because when you touch it, it does make a sound. That's often a way of getting that hands-on experience working. And then in note settings, there's some important settings here to do with the automatic key detection, note swiping, we'll talk about that later, and the polyphonic mode. So back to sensitivity. Here I've got my Skoog set medium, which is right for me, and the threshold at 3. Now, the threshold is a really important one. If you have it set, If you need it to be as sensitive as possible, your Skoog, so if you have students with limited movement or challenging movement, then get the activation threshold down at 1. That means that it's going to take less pressure to activate it, and it's quite good to try and promote using the whole hand or a wide surface area. When you're poking the Skoog, it can seem like you have to use a bit more pressure, but if you can see, squish it in like that, it's one thing, but then if I use the flat of my hand, then I barely need to compress it at all, or I can rub it, touch it in different ways. So it's worth playing around with the sensitivity settings to find, for many students who are reasonably physically able in terms of strength and range of movement, then set at medium, threshold at 3, will be fine. The other great thing about this threshold is it means that you can set it so that if you have students that are maybe ambulatory and are running about the Skoog, and you don't want it triggering off when people are moving it, you want it intentionally played, then setting the threshold higher will allow students to carry it around. It will be great, you can pass it around in class, and it won't set a sound off until it's actually played. And that was something we learned from the old Skoog, Skoog 1, which Skoog 1 looks like this. Some of you may have seen it before or even have one. Skoog 1, great, but it, was challenged by the fact that it is a USB device. It needed a cable attached, and the software that it ran on did it needed quite a lot of setup, whereas we've managed to, in iOS, and the joy of working on iOS is it's so easy and things just work, and the integration with various other programs is very simple, and a lot of the settings automate a lot of the things you used to have to kind of set up that were a bit fiddly in Skoog 1. So the sensitivity is better, it's wireless, it doesn't have the cable, and it can do so much more. So these thresholds are a great new feature. And I'm going to pop mine back to 3 here. The response gives you even more control over the sensitivity, and you can even set that individually. So if you are looking at different students and different profiles of movement and interaction, well worth exploring those features and finding what works for your students. So let's get on. So you have the on-screen feedback, which shows you where you're playing, what notes you're activating, and where it's being touched and played with. So we've done sensitivity. Now, in the Skoog, there are some built-in sounds, and they can be found where you have this little guitar icon. Now, these are a few little synth sounds. We've got a moon synth on at the moment. I can have a look at a string. We've got modulus, which is kind of a strange one. Sounds a bit like a strange space cat. And so there's limited sounds in the Skoog app. But that's because Skoog can integrate beautifully with GarageBand, which is free on iOS, and that gives you access to hundreds of sounds and more classical sounds, like things like piano, strings, percussion, woodwind, and these things that you might be more familiar with as a music teacher, and also loads of great synths, guitar sounds, effects, samples, all kinds of crazy stuff. So you've got a range of different sounds in the app that you can play around with. And as soon as you start playing with Skoog, you're starting to make a kind of musical kind of context, because those preset scales are giving you the right sort of spacing harmonically to start to create something. If you have more than one Skoog, it's one Skoog per iPad. It's a useful tip is to make sure when you turn them on and connect them, just connect them one at a time, because they come up as in the menu as Skoog. And if you've got lots of Skoogs on and trying to connect them at the same time with iPads, it can sometimes be a bit confusing because it's not sure which Skoog is connecting to which iPad. You can always find out by pressing them and hearing the sound, but it's often a good idea if you do have multiple Skoogs to connect them one at a time. Now with multiple Skoogs, if you have several Skoogs, then you can set them all to the same key. So this is where the notes are set, which we're going to get to. And then if you have them set with the same key, you can have different sounds on them. So one can be a synth, one can be a string. And if the users are playing, they're going to be in the same key. They're going to have the right notes that work and fit together. And already you have a band without the need for anything else. If they're playing, making those sounds together, you're creating something. And so as easy as that, within a few moments of actually just turning on the devices and setting them up, they will automatically be working together if you set them at the same key. So let's talk a little bit about this idea of keys. Keys is just a name for a kind of set of notes that are grouped together in a way that sort of creates a nice sound, a nice space. All songs have a kind of key associated with them. So if you're a music teacher, you'll know this, and if not, you might you hear people say things like, oh, that's in G minor or C major or something, and that just means that there's a set of notes that song is sort of built out of. And if you know what those notes are, you can use them to play around with that song. So in Skoog, you set the sounds on the instruments, and then the notes you set on the scales page. Now it has built-in scales here, and you've got those, you've probably heard of like C, D, E, F, these letters that we assign to scales, and they just represent different sets of notes. We can change the octave, which is just how high or low a set of sounds is. These other, so we normally work within the major and minor scales, they're the main ones. And then we have these other modes, which kind of produce more kind of interesting harmonic kind of series and stuff. And don't worry about those if they don't make sense to you. If you know what they are, you know how to use them. And if not, you just, if someone, it's really, if in some of the help or the support says set the key to G Mixolydian, then you know that's where it is and it's in there. And it's fun to play around with those different scales as well, because it gives you a different range of sounds and can promote more interaction and more independent kind of expressive use by the user. So this is where the scales are. Important to note, it doesn't have to be scales. If you want to set the individual notes on each side so that you could play a melody, a specific melody, then you just go to notes, and here you can see I can dial in the note that I want per side. I can make that any 5 notes I want. And using that, you're actually able to play a whole range of different songs and melodies and parts in songs. And then you can use color. So, Skoog has a colored ring per side, and you can then use color or blocks of color printed or on screen to then enable a student to follow a pattern. And it gives you a sort of color-based score, similar to musical score, but much easier to interact with, where you can actually see a color, press a color, and if it's long, you play a long note, and if it's short, you play a short note. I'm going to show you a bit more of that stuff a bit later. We've got loads of resources for that, and these are all free and online. So this is where you set the notes, and similarly where you set the scales. So now we've got our Skoog setup. Now, I just want to very quickly show you a couple of different settings in the menus here. We'll just talk a little bit about them, and then we're going to start making some music. So what are we now? We're at nearly 20 past. So we've had 20 minutes of chat about this. We've already started playing. We've got our Skoog set up. I've learned a little bit about scales. What else can we do with this? Well, one of the really cool features that we have now in Skoog is that it will automatically integrate with your iTunes library or Apple Music Media or Spotify. So, and that's just this little sort of music library icon up here. Now, if I go up here, I can look into my iTunes. Now, whatever songs I have downloaded on my iPad, you can see here, various songs, various people, and I can play along with those. So I could look at a track by Beyonce, and I could play along with that. Now, I'm not going to actually play along with that here, because when it's connected in a webinar like this, it has a bit of trouble playing the track back. But you can see here on the screen, it's automatically set the key to C# minor. Now, in order to, if you have any problems with this automatic key setup, in the settings here, and you go to note settings, you need to make sure that that's turned on, automatic key detection. And there you see, where you see it's orange, it's turned on. As long as that's on, it will set this automatically when you're looking at stuff in iTunes. Other stuff that we could do, it does also work with Spotify. So if we have a Spotify account, let's go here, let's have a look there, open my Spotify account. It shows me my playlists in here. Now, we can just go to all the notes there, and let's try Maneater. Now, it's already set the notes there, and it's playing. So I should be able to play along with that. So a little bit there, so you can see I can play any side, it sounds good, I can start to make my own parts. And so very quickly, without the need for any kind of music training or anything like that, you can just simply choose a track that you like, you've got the keys set up, and you can just play around with the different sounds and start making your own music, improvising, getting people taking part in music. So that's really quick, really easy, it's built in, and because it's your own music library, it's just going to be the music that's relevant to you or to the class that you're working with. So that's a really fantastic feature. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you very quickly in terms of getting some activity, the musical activity happening, sort of out of the box, if you will. So the other option we've got up here is the little book with the note icon on it. And that's a little built-in songbook. Now, In here are some royalty-free, some old nursery rhymes and or classical songs that you can play through with this interactive color on the screen. Now, this won't suit everyone's level of ability, but it's a nice way of introducing it. And you could share this onto a screen or an interactive whiteboard if you've got AirPlay on, and show the students what's going on. So this, let's have a little crack at Ode to Joy. So there you see it's moving along, it's playing with what I'm doing, and there's a selection of things in here. Now, that's a great kind of self-paced activity. It's a great way of introducing the Skoog to a class. You can actually then, you can have it as a group and you could each take turns, and I'll play the, get one student playing blue, one student playing green and yellow, and they could take it in turns to create that song by playing together. Great for turn taking, great for kind of social skills in that sense, in terms of musical activities. So that's a really cool thing. And that is actually replicated and expanded upon in our online support. So I'll just show you here. If we go to our website, skoogmusic.com support, here we go. Now, here in the support section, there's a section on Skoog, and which is another product we have. And in here, you can see down here, there's a Skoog songbook. So if I click that link, you can actually see online here, we've got loads of tracks that we've transcribed. And these are, let's have a look at maybe Coldplay and Paradise. And these are actually PDF resources you can download. So it gives you the key. So it says here, set the scale to D minor if you want to just jam along. So that means that we wanted to play with that track by Coldplay, we go in here, go here and just set the key to D minor if we wanted. And that would sort us out. We could play along. However, coming back here now, we could also have a look at the PDF. Now this is it's quite a complex one, this one. This gives you the color patterns to play. Now, you could use flashcards with this, which we have as a downloadable resource, and to guide a class. You could also just take small sections, and cut and paste this and expand it, and just start on a small section of it. Then this is a repeating phrase, obviously. We have more complex, less complex. We've got duets. We've got sort of traditional sort of festival songs, like Christmas songs. There's Disney films. There's a bunch of kids songs in there. There's some lullabies, hot cross buns, hokey pokey, all kinds of stuff. So that's a really great resource, and again, that's free. So coming back to the Skoog, here we are. So sensitivity, you can change and set that under the settings. Choosing some different sounds. There's a range of sounds in the Skoog, and we're going to look very shortly at choosing different sounds, more using other apps like GarageBand and how to work with that. Setting scales and notes, that's under the note icon there. And that, if you stick to the preset major and minor scales, can't go wrong. Or, feel free to play around with the others and just either set the other Skoogs that you have to the same key, or we actually have online as well. Let me show you this. In our support section, so if we go to support here, hopefully the internet will work for me, and I go to lesson plans for teachers. These are not just for teachers, these are for anyone. And here we've got some useful resources. This is a great video actually that gives you a good technical overview. Some course stuff, setup with classroom, and here, pentatonic keys. Here we've got a really great guide on using pentatonics and how the different keys work and how they interact. So there's a great resource there as well. So that's another good tip, is make sure you check out our resource section. So back to making music. Now, before we go on to looking at other sounds, I wanted to give you, so you've got the iTunes integration, you've got the Skoog songbook, but I wanted to give you some other ideas about how you might be able to use it really quickly. Now, one thing that I know that people often do is play music from YouTube. So if that's something that you do maybe in class, then one thing you might want to look at doing. So here we've got Ravel's Bolero. I've typed that in. Now, I've also here, I've written into Google, what key is Bolero in? And it says here C major. Okay, so if I then go to my Skoog, now one thing I'm going to do is, if I'm not using the automatic key detection, I'm going to turn that off so that the key, I can control it myself. You can change it yourself without doing that, but that just means it won't stop, it won't change in the middle of me doing something. So now it said C major, didn't it? So if I choose major, I change that letter to C. Brilliant. So that's set it to that. Even though it said it on the track, then that's just relating to the track that's in iTunes. Now, if I then go back to my browser and we go here to Bolero, that's it playing in the background. And I can just play along. Now, I'm just going to turn the volume on my Skoog down a bit so that it's not so loud in comparison with the track there. Turn the volume up here. Now, just imagine this could be playing on another laptop, or it could be from a CD, or anything like that. But as long as I know the key, which is, here we have it. Well, it fits, it gives me the right notes, I'm able to play around. And yet, like I say, that could be a pre-recording, it could be on a CD, as long as you know what key it's in, and use Google, just type it in and see what it is. Or you can use the automatic key detection in our software, lots of different ways to play there, okay? So that was another way of looking at, getting some music happening really easy. So either have a few Skoogs, set them to the same key, use the automatic built-in key detection for iTunes or Spotify, or just play some music from a CD and look up the key online. Super easy, and you just, as long as you can match the right letter in the tonic there where it says key and the right mode where it says major or minor, you'll be grand and you'll be making music with a class in moments. Okay, so that's sort of first part. Now the next thing that I think is important to look at, and I'd like to look at now, is the idea of looking at connecting into GarageBand. So this is a really, if you've got Skoog and you're thinking about getting it, GarageBand is free on the iPad, and it is a fantastic resource. And what it does is it unlocks loads more activities and potential, recording, composing, creating, doing loads of stuff. But the main thing is it gives you a huge library of amazing sounds. So let's have a look at that. So it's really easy to connect to MIDI. So what I have to do to connect through into GarageBand on the iPad is to use something called MIDI, which is just a kind of a technical language, the way that these musical apps speak to each other, okay? And I'm gonna go to the MIDI button in my Skoog app, and here, it's on already, but what I'm gonna do is just turn it on, turn the audio off, and now I'm not getting any sound from my Skoog there, but let's see what I can do. I then go into GarageBand, let's open that up. There we go. And in GarageBand, just very quickly, often if you're opening GarageBand for the first time, you'll see something that says My Songs. And you can create a new one, or I'm just gonna open this one, which is a fresh song. And there we go, already. I'm connected, I'm playing a classical grand piano. I never knew I could do that. So a couple of things when working with GarageBand. As long as you have the MIDI turned on in your Skoog app, it will speak to GarageBand. GarageBand is automatically set to pick up internal MIDI signals. And so it's as simple as just clicking that button in Skoog, and you're away. Now, very importantly, a couple of little tips here. If you are working with GarageBand, you need to make sure you turn on a couple of settings in GarageBand to make it work smoothly and get that really seamless integration. So up here in GarageBand, on the right-hand side, you can see there's a wrench or a spanner icon, as we say in the UK. And if I tap that, it opens a menu. And then what you want to do is go to Advanced. Don't worry, we're not going to do anything to Advanced. We're just going to turn a couple of buttons on. Go to Advanced, and here you can see it says Run in Background. So let's turn that on. And what that means is when I have GarageBand on and I can use other apps, it'll still keep the sound coming through. And that's really useful when you're using it with other apps and doing other things, actually, which we're going to look at in a minute. I want to make sure I get through a couple of things in this webinar. And I'm going to stop the kind of teaching and part of this in about 10 minutes. I'm going to look and see what questions and stuff we've got and whether I can answer any of those. So Run in Background needs to be on, and then also Use with Music apps. Now it's already working, but by turning that on, it means that you're going to really get the best performance. And that's it. So now we've got our classical grand piano that we're playing. Now, in order to look at different sounds in GarageBand, if I touch the screen where the piano is there, it opens a menu. And this gives me all the different keyboards. Okay, they're there, and I can just touch to select. Up in the top left-hand corner, you can see that there's beside my songs is what's called a carousel icon. So if I touch that, this then brings up all the different kind of sounds and stuff I can get to with my Skoog. So there's lots of different exotic world instruments. So this is a Chinese sort of violin sound. It's really expressive, really lovely sound, that one. Really worth playing around with. And I just suggest exploring these different sounds and giving students or people you're playing with a chance to beautiful. Okay, so there's lots of sounds we can choose from, but one thing that comes up again and again is, can I play the drums with a Skoog? Now the answer is yes, you can, but there are a couple of things you need to tweak setting-wise. So let's go to drums. Now, in order to play drums on Skoog, you do need to use GarageBand or some other program that's got drum sounds in it. I would suggest GarageBand because they're fantastic. Go to acoustic drums here. Now, at the moment, you can see I'm touching my Skoog and I ain't getting any playback in my cans. There's nothing happening there. And that's because when you play percussion on sort of MIDI, all of the sounds, if you imagine on a keyboard, the sounds are set lower down on the keyboard at a lower octave. So in order to play the drum sounds, you just need to have the right notes assigned on the Skoog. And we do that in the Skoog app. So let's go back here, go to the Skoog app, go to notes, and you can see here we're in octave 3. If I drop that down to 1, suddenly I'm getting sounds. Now, if I want to select, so down into octave 1, C major gives you a good pretty good spread. Now, you might want to go into notes here and actually select a sound. So got a kick there, got a snare. I'd like a hi-hat there, I think. So on my yellow, I can go through these. Oh, let's go up. Hi-hat, and I can open that hi-hat on this one, I think, hopefully. There we go. So that's how you can set up drums on the Skoog. Really easy. You just have to make sure the notes are in the right octave. Okay, let's go back into GarageBand now. Another couple of things to note in GarageBand that are really useful is using the autoplay instruments to provide a bit of a backing track. Very quickly, let's have a look at that. So if we go into our carousel here and we look at keyboards here, smart piano, let's just try that for a minute. And here we've got our smart piano. So you can see the button there that says autoplay. If I select that, it gives you some different options. Let's put it to 2. Now, if I touch somewhere on the keyboard here, say F, it starts playing a repeating pattern or loop. Now you can use that as a backing or a background to the sound that you want to play with your Skoog, but you just have to make sure you're setting the right key. So if we're going to do it in F, now if there isn't an M beside the letter in GarageBand, it means it's in a major. So if we want to play that F major, then we need to go to our Skoog app, and you guessed it, we need to go to Notes, Scales, and we need to select F major. F major. There we go, and we're in octave 1. So now if I choose here, simple as that. I've got a great little piece of built-in backing that I can play with, and that's often the way with getting some music activity started, is having some background sounds playing, having some background music playing, and facilitating the ability for the players to be able to play with that. And so it's about getting stuff in the right key, the settings, and if you know that and you have the information either from Google or following the setup instructions in the app as it stands, then it gives you that opportunity to facilitate that and get a group making sound together. So that's one thing. I just need to pause a second. So going on, so very quickly, another So the dog is moving around here. The other thing that you might want to do in GarageBand is to record what you're doing. And that's very simple. You can see up here in the top of GarageBand, there's a record button, and you can just touch that and it will record what you're doing. So I'm going to actually just play that. There's also a metronome here. I'm going to turn that metronome off so we don't get the annoying clicking sound. I just press record. There we go. Apologize if you can hear some strange sounds. I'm doing this webinar from home. My dog is in here, and it's a French bulldog, and it's making some curious sounds there. But there might be some interesting backing going on there. So we've recorded this, and then if I just tap that, go back, then I can listen back. It's really easy. And then if we want to add another part, we just press the plus in GarageBand. Let's try a synthesizer. Let's choose something. There we go. We can add that. And then you see it's created a new part. I scroll back. If I hit record. So I've created a kind of bizarre synth part there. I might change that sound actually, because I think we can do something a bit more powerful. So let's try something leady, airy synth lead. Let's try that. Continue, there we go. There we are. And so now we'll play that back. So you can hear I've got two different things going on. It's really easy to control. And because it's using the pentatonic scales in Skoog, they work together. I can start to build up a recording, build up this performance, and bring in different students, play different parts. Really easy. I don't need a degree from MIT to operate something like GarageBand and get that, get a multi-track recording and performance going. It's just so simple and really easy to do. Now, so we've done drums. Another quick thing I want to show you in GarageBand is using the sampler. Now, one question we often get with Skoog is, love it, it's great, super easy to use, so interactive, but can I put my own sounds on it? And one thing where you really start to unlock the kind of multi-sensory or the cross-curricular potential of the device is by bringing in new sounds, different sounds, sound effects, animal sounds, environmental sounds, words, numbers, letters, buzzers, all kinds of things, or even just mechanical sounds, sounds that an individual might find particularly engaging. So you might find different sounds used in kind of stimming behavior with autistic people with autism. And oops, sorry, it's got a door slam there. And that's another kind of really great way of using it with these sounds. So let's have a look at how we get our own sounds onto the device. Now, one way of doing that is in GarageBand and using the sampler in GarageBand. So if I go here back to the carousel and look there, it says, under keyword, it says sampler. So let's try that. And that's just a way of recording it. Now, this uses the built-in mic in the iPad, or you can plug in a mic and use that as well. So let's try this. Yes, I'm getting a signal here. So if I just click start, it will record what I'm doing. There we go. Now, just for a second here, I'm just gonna, so just so you see, this is the dog that's causing all the noise. So we'll get it to say hello. We're gonna say hello. Yes, now can you stop interfering? Thank you. That's Shy, the French bulldog. So we're just gonna shut the door, sorry. That. That's what happens when you're doing live interactive webinars. You never work with animals. So here's our sampler in GarageBand. Now what this does, it will record one sound, and then it will assign different pitches depending on what I've got the Skoog set to. So it allows you to maybe take a vocal sound and sing with it. So let's try that. So we've made a sound, and now. So it's taken the sound, it's recorded it in, and then it's using the scale information on the Skoog to put pitches to that. Now, if I go into my Skoog app, I can actually play around with that. So I have a major scale, I can make it minor. or I could change the key entirely. This is a really great for giving interactivity and control of the voice and engaging using the voice, using a single sound that's recorded. Now, that's one way of putting sounds on. Important to note when you're doing this, the actual notes of the scales won't be exact. So it depends, it's tuning it relative to the recording. So this is a little bit more advanced. So if I put A in here, it's not going to necessarily give me an A scale, but what it will do is create a pitched sounds that are relative to each other. And if you're wanting to tune it to do a particular musical job and enable someone to sing along with someone else, then it's just a matter of using those notes and dialing in to get those notes right, get the ones that you want that are going to work. Or like I say, you can use the pentatonic settings that'll give you a spacing that's tuned and works nicely together. So that's one way of getting your sounds on it. Now, the other thing that a lot of people want to do is say, well, what if I want more than one sound? What if I want to have like a chicken on one side and a bear on the other, or a car and an ambulance and a fire engine maybe, or a range of different bird sounds? How do we do that? Well, as luck would have it, there's an app for that. And it's by Skoog and it's called Scratch. So I'm going to quit my Skoog app. I'm going to quit GarageBand. And I'm going to have a look at Scratch. Scratch is free. You can get it from the App Store. And there it is. Open Scratch. Super easy. Now I'm just going to reset my app here by touching and holding the screen, clicking the reset. Now the way that Scratch works as an app is it's just point and touch menus. So where there's the Skoog icon in the top left, if I touch and hold that, you can see it pops up a menu. Now my Skoog is already connected, but if I didn't have a Skoog connected when I opened the app, that's where I would connect my Skoog. So, and if I touch and hold the screen, this pops up another menu, which gives me sharing options, recording options, and a reset option, okay? And under the share option, which is the 3 lines of the 3 dots, I can also load sounds in. So I can go, if I have sounds or sounds in files on my iOS device, then I can bring those in. So you can share, push sounds from another iPad, airdrop them across into this, and then use them. So if you've got pre-recorded sounds or phonemes or sound effects or things you want to use or stuff you want to download from the internet, you can use that and share it in here. So very quickly, if you want to calibrate the Skoog, so if you want to make sure it's set up right, then just double tap the screen and that's it calibrating. You see the little calibrate sign comes up. So how does this work? Well, either you load sounds in and you've got a different colored tile that represents a different side of the Skoog, or you can just record using the mic. Now, hopefully this is going to work. So let's, if you touch and hold, tap a tile, it will start recording. Shh. There we go. So now we've got okay, so that's us. It's so easy. Tuck to record, get it right in there, and you're away. Another thing you can do is if I touch and hold a tile like this, you can see it opens a menu for that individual sound. And there's loads of cool, so I can trim the sound, I can reverse it. The reset button will delete it, but this one's cool. So this is a little DJ kind of button. And if I turn that on, then I can manipulate that with my Skoog. A lot of fun, as I'm sure you can agree. And again, it's about making sounds interactive, giving that kind of playfulness with sound, allowing kids to really explore that. And that's one thing that's kind of really important in the context of special ed, is giving children an opportunity to play with sound. So in the course of when we develop and build our language skills, one of the things we do is babbling as young children. We play with sound, we're playing around with sound, controlling it with our mouths. And sometimes that can be impeded or interrupted in development. So giving kids the opportunity to play with sound again, it's almost like finger painting with sound, just that free exploration of sound is really important, and it's quite unique and something that schools can afford in just allow that really playful activity to be facilitated, include everyone in that, and give people a chance to play not just with sounds and musical sounds, but with their own sounds, voice sounds from their body, sound effects, all sorts of stuff. So Skoog Scratch, great app. So I'm glad we've managed to get to cover that. We've had a look at GarageBand and all the sort of opportunities that affords. And going back to the main Skoog app now. So I guess now what I'd like to do, and that's the main things to cover. So really easy to set up, simply just connect via Bluetooth. Really easy to get music happening because using the preset scales, you're already doing, as soon as you start touching it, you're making music. And that's kind of one of the kind of really important things to, I'm gonna go into moon synth here. One thing actually I wanted to cover before we finish here is just a little activity that you can do with an app called Bloom. Now, this is a really great kind of soundscape activity that you can do to help introduce Skoog to a class or to give a really nice kind of therapeutic kind of exploring sound, playful session that you can do. We have all of the stuff I've talked about here today is actually available via the help page on our website, or email us at support@skoogmusic.com or info@skoogmusic.com with any questions. We also have, if you're in the US, we have our US office in Denver. Contact details available from our website. You can get in touch with the guys there, and we're there to support you and provide, access to the guides, to the help, and to any information you want. Skoog available. Yes, if you're interested in purchasing Skoog, get in touch with us via the website, info@skoogmusic.com, or contact the Denver office directly. There's details that we will email out after this webinar available to you to do that. So pentatonic scales mean you can get music happening really easy, or you can use the built-in songs to have a look at playing, so do some color following. You can go online to the Skoog songbook, hundreds of songs there you can print off and play around with, or you can use the built-in automatic key detection with iTunes, Apple Music and Spotify, or you can just look up some stuff online and play music from a CD player and get people playing with it. Now, the last thing that I wanted to look at today, we're running on a bit. I think we've got the hour booked, so let's fill that. Let's fill that. There's so much more we can do with Skoog, so much more to talk about, but I don't want to overload things in this first webinar. We're going to be doing lots of these. We have some more on our YouTube channel. Have an explore, email us. We even do for schools and for kind of supporting wider implementation. We can do like interactive video training, all sorts we can do. But let's have a look at this activity with an app called Bloom. So this, you can see on my iPad, I have this app called Bloom. Now, it is a paid for app. It's a couple of dollars. It doesn't cost much, and it's a fantastic app, great for sensory stuff. So I'm going to open Bloom, and what it is it does something that's creating generative music. So it creates a soundscape that doesn't have any particular rhythmic demand. You can hear it starting to play just now. And that's really important. So it doesn't have a pulse to it. So it provides a acoustic space, a playful sound bed that you can then play in. And that's really important for a lot of people who may have sensory impairments or physical disability or to be able to play in a world of sound without the need for necessarily being in time, because that's quite challenging. And this is a way of facilitating that kind of interaction. So I've opened Bloom, I leave it in classic, and I just want to go into the listening mode. So here you can see it's going to start playing in these beautiful patterns of sound. And down here on the bottom right is where the settings are. And so here are the moods. Now, when you choose a mood, it sets a certain pattern of notes. Now, what we've done at Skoog is we've spoken to the guys that do Bloom, and we have created a worksheet for that tells you what key on Skoog to set it to be able to play with these different modes. So it's in Neroli, so I need G Mixolydian. So again, so go to my Skoog, go to my notes, Mixolydian, G. So now I can just play around with that. And that's going to give me this really lovely backing to what I'm doing. I'm just going to pause it now for a minute so we can speak. And that's just a really great activity, a really fantastic sensory app. Integration with Skoog via the worksheets that we've got online, or use GarageBand that automatically just by turning the MIDI on, remember, going in here, making sure MIDI is on, and that will automatically speak to GarageBand. And that's just, you know, and that opens up this way of recording using all of those lovely sounds, the violins, the strings, double bass, crazy space synths, all kinds of stuff like that. Another great app to use if you want more sounds. Let's go here. So when you're using Skoog with other apps, sometimes you can turn the sound of the Skoog app off in here, but also it's often useful, you can just use the volume control to make sure there's nothing coming out of the Skoog app there. So turn that down. Now, another great app, because we've got a little bit of time here, another great app to use is something called Seaboard 5D by Roly. Sounds complicated, don't worry, it isn't. It's free, and it's a beautiful library of sounds. So there it is, I'm just gonna open it up. Now this is designed to work with a Roly Seaboard keyboard. So here that's me touching the screen. It has a, and there we go, I'm playing this now with the Skoog. Now, in order to set it up, sometimes, I mean, I think that's set up, it should just work, but if you're touching a Skoog and you're not seeing any interaction, top right, there's a little circle with a white dot. That's the setup menu in here. And you can just go to Midi Setup, Midi Input, and there you see Skoog Bluetooth. I'm pretty sure, yeah, it's just Skoog that you need selected there. And it works. Now, the only thing with Seaboard 5D is you need to be able to see the app on the screen to hear the sounds. It won't run in the background like GarageBand does. If I then go to my Skoog app, nothing happens. You still set the notes in Skoog, you still set your sensitivity in Skoog, but in order to hear the sounds, you need the Seaboard app up. And there you go. And these up here where it says double bass, but if you touch that, where you can see the letters where it's saying what sound it is, that brings up the menu. And here we've got these beautiful sounds, amazing sounds. Let's try another one. Ice keys, what's that? That's pretty cool. Or mellow duduk. Beautiful. So there we go. I think I'm going to pause there, and I'm going to go back to here. I'm going to pause the screen share so I can see what's going on here. There we go. We've got some people signed in, attendees. Now, are there any questions? Allow, I suppose, I will just enable everyone to ask some questions. Here we go. Talking permitted, allowed to talk. Has anyone, oh, here we go. We've got a hand up here from Beverly. Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
That's me.
Yeah, that's you. You had a hand up.
I'm in Florida.
Okay.
I still own this one.
The Skoog
and
one.
I can't, yes, and I can't seem to get any support from a computer. Is there any way, what do I do with it? Now, I've been able to get funding. Yeah.
So this one, the white one?
Yes.
Okay.
And I still have the connector.
Okay. Right. So very quickly, the best thing for you to do is to email us at support@skoogmusic.com. We can direct you to the where to download the Windows software. It will run with Windows, but it is an older device. The other thing we're doing is we are offering a special upgrade price that you can get if you have a Skoog 1 and you want to upgrade to Skoog 2. So if you email us, we can connect you with the team in the States to help with that. But we will also provide you with the link to download the software for a Windows computer and links to pre-recorded webinars and other support material to get you using that if that's what you want to do.
Well, I really want to thank you for that. I am on a Mac right now. When I first got this, it worked, but not now.
Okay, well, all I can suggest, so if you email us at support@skoogmusic.com, we'll sort you out.
I sure will.
And we'll see what we can do. I'm going to move on and see if anyone else has got any questions. Any more hands raised? Let's have a look. So if we say allowed to talk, allowed to talk, allowed to talk. Does anyone else have a question? If you do the sort of raised hand button, I thought Elizabeth was wanting to talk. I saw a hand. Oh, wait, is that right? Yes. So Ruby, unmute.
Hi.
Hi, Ruby. Oh, I can hear you now, I think. Hello, Ruby.
Yes. Hi, how are you doing? First of all,
I'm
thank
great.
you so much for this introduction to Skoog. I missed the first part, which is the half, approximately the 30 minutes. So
Okay.
how can I see that part, and how can I record at least, because I missed lots of
That's fine. So that's a good question. So don't worry about it. So this was recorded and it will be broadcast. It will be put up onto our YouTube channel, and you'll get an email with a link to it once we finish the session. So you can go back at your own pace and watch it, and pause it and see what we're doing with the software, and go through things at your own pace. Do you have a Skoog already?
Yes, I'm a music therapist, and I'm working with autistic children. I bought it recently, which is because I heard about it, and I'm not I have a few information about it, not that much. I didn't apply it. I'm introducing that to my children.
Yeah, so great for improvised music therapy. And do email us if you need any more support. What was the question that you had? Sorry, before I interrupted.
Yeah. Now, is there a possibility, because I'm from Arab countries, and I was asking if there a possibility to compose a certain music, then they can follow by pattern out and doing this, and it's with like certain songs that I can put it. Also, if I can apply the Oriental scales.
So more of a microtonal scale. So we will be adding more diverse tuning to it. So it's stuck. It is at the moment. It has the standard modes, Western modes, but we will be adding in a next update or two. We will be adding the wider range of tunings. So if you keep an eye out for that, we will be adding that. At the moment, it doesn't have the more diverse modes. But we are working on that, and we'll be building that into an update in the future. In terms of creating, pardon?
Yeah, in terms of creating a songs, or creating a certain songs, and they can follow the pattern, which is like a Claire de la Lune, or like Mary Hadal the Lamp, or these things. So again, is there a possibility to create
there is. So if you again ping us an email, or if you go straight to the support section, and if you go to the songbook there, or go to support section, there's actually a pack you can download on arranging music for Skoog, and it has links to the colored blocks for the different note lengths, and you can just put those in a Word template or a Pages template, where you can then lay them out to create the color patterns for the students to follow. And you can set the notes in the Skoog app. If you go back through this webinar at the start, I show you how to set them independently so that they're not set to a pentatonic scale, and so you can just set them to C3, D4, C sharp, per color, and then if they follow the color, they can play the song.
Okay, and last question, please. Could you please, it's a request, if there are links or something that you want us, so is there a possibility just you can write it, or we can see it, so I can send to you directly, or send if there are different webinars that you suggest, or places that we can see from the school.
So if you have any questions, email us at support@skoogmusic.com. If you want, we have lots of other webinars on our YouTube channel, and that's just, if you type Skoog Music YouTube into Google, you'll see our YouTube channel, and we have a particular playlist for webinars, and once this one's recorded, we'll upload that. We have other webinars available there, and we'll be doing probably a webinar every 2 to 3 weeks, different topics. And so again, if you're interested in maybe tips on inclusion or other music tech, or working with students with autism, email us a request, and we tend to base our different webinars on what people are asking about at the time. So please ask us some questions. Just don't hesitate in getting in touch. And as I said, so get in touch with support@skoogmusic.com, and our EU office will cover EMEA and Middle East. And then if you're in the US or Canada, please get in touch with our US office, and there are contact details for that via the website, or if you email us at info or support, again, we'll give you the details for the US office and you can talk to someone directly. So that's
Thank you
us.
so much.
That's all right. That's us with the full hour now. I'm just seeing, is anyone else looking to ask a question? Let's be allowed to talk, Is anyone else, would anyone else like to ask a question? I should be able to see a hand raised if you do. I'm not seeing any, so I'm going to take that as all the questions done for now. But like I say, please do shoot over any questions. We do special pricing for schools and for education purchases. And if you have a Skoog One, we can also offer an upgrade price on that if you would like to upgrade it, or if you require support with Skoog One, email us and we'll send that over. Thanks to everyone for taking part. I hope you found it useful, and yeah, it's been my pleasure chatting to you all, and I hope to speak to you all again soon, and hopefully maybe hear what you've been getting up to with Skoog, and maybe if there's anything you want to share stories wise or performances, again, just get in touch. We're here to help with anything and all things Skoog. Thanks now. Cheers.